Okay, we really need to talk about a critical security issue, one that can take a totally harmless looking app and turn it into a financial nightmare, pretty much overnight.
For one developer, this wasn't some hypothetical question. It was a real-world disaster that happened in just a handful of hours. So how on earth did this happen?
Yup, that was the final bill. 54,000 euros. And this wasn't from some super sophisticated hack, but from what looked like a completely normal, by-the-book project setup.
What's just insane is this speed. This wasn't some slow drip. It was a catastrophic gusher that drained the account in a little over half a day.
And this is where it gets crazy. This whole thing boils down to one critical question. How did a public API key, one that the official documentation literally told you was safe to expose, become a direct pipeline to a massive financial problem?
You see, for years, the official guidance from Google and Firebase pushed this one simple rule, a rule that developers all over the world, including maybe you, came to trust and build their apps on. And there you have it, straight from the source. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a developer misreading the manual. This was the accepted wisdom. This was the rule of the land that shaped how countless apps were built. And of course they did. Why wouldn't you? It was considered standard practice. This old truth meant that thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of these keys were just sitting out there, intentionally exposed in apps. It wasn't just common, it was the recommended way to do things.
But then everything changed. The moment powerful and very expensive generative AI services like Gemini got switched on in the Google Cloud platform, the whole game changed for these old, supposedly safe keys.
Now, this slide really shows you the sheer scale of this risk. Just by scanning the public web, security researchers found thousands of these keys. But look at mobile apps. Over 35,000 unique keys found just in a sample. That is a gigantic, massive attack surface just waiting. Security researchers gave this a name, and it really gets to the heart of the issue. It's not that the key got leaked. It's that its power, its permissions were expanded after the fact, turning a harmless ID into a dangerous credential without anyone really noticing. And that's why this isn't your typical security story. It's way more subtle and honestly a lot more dangerous. It's about a fundamental change in what that API key you're using even is. This slide just lays it out perfectly. It shows you the broken trust contract right there. We all thought we had a simple public identifier, kind of like an ID card. But overnight, the platform basically turned that ID card into a corporate credit card with no limit, tied directly to its most expensive new services. Okay, so the first question everyone asks is, but wait, I have billing alerts set up. I'm safe, right? Well, the actual data from this incident, it tells a very, very different story. Just let that sink in for a second. The alert system is not a real-time kill switch. By the time that email notification even hit the inbox, the financial damage was already catastrophic and still climbing. Think of budget alerts as a smoke detector, not a fire suppression system. They tell you there's a fire, but they don't put it out. All right, so that's the problem. It is scary, but it is absolutely solvable. So let's get into the new playbook, the clear, actionable defense plan that you can use right now to protect yourself. These 3 steps are your top priority. This is your emergency response checklist. First, figure out which of your projects even have the GNA API turned on. Second, and this is the most critical, create brand new, totally separate keys just for those AI services. And third, lock down your old public keys. Go in and explicitly block them from being able to call Gemini at all. So once the immediate fire is out, it's time to build a much stronger fortress. This means adding more layers, like using app check. It means setting hard API quotas that act like a real circuit breaker. And for maximum safety, you might even consider moving your AI features into completely separate Google Cloud projects. And this is a really, really important point. A tool like Firebase App Check is great. It's super useful for stopping abuse from bad actors, but it doesn't fix the root problem. The root problem is a key that has way too much power. Your first and second lines of defense are always going to be key separation and API restriction. This brings us to the biggest takeaway of all, which is a complete mindset shift. Adding a Gen AI feature to your app isn't like adding a new button or a new screen. It is a fundamental change that forces you to rethink your project's entire security and financial architecture, right from the ground up. This whole event really forces us to ask a tough, forward-looking question. This isn't just about Firebase or Gemini. It's a lesson in how fast platforms can evolve under our feet. It makes you wonder, what other public, totally harmless thing in our own projects is just one new feature launch away from becoming the next big liability?